I lost a game of truth or dare to my dink wife. With a smile, she had me sign an agreement. If either of us ever had children, we would hand over the company for them to manage. I nodded and agreed. Not long after, at my 55th birthday party, my wife brought home a pair of fraternal twins. These are my biological children. As per our agreement, let's turn the company over to them. What do you say? I nodded. All right. Don't worry, she continued. They've just graduated from college. They'll manage the company well. Plus, they'll take care of you in your old age. I agreed and was about to announce the decision. My mother, frantic, pulled me aside. Those aren't your children, she whispered urgently. You can't be so foolish as to hand the company over to them. I waved her concerns away. It's fine, my father also came over to persuade me, but I was resolute. Furious, he slapped me across the face. How could the Thompson family have a disgraceful son like you? Clutching my stinging cheek, I asked someone to look after my father. Then, I announced to everyone present that the company would be inherited by the twins. The son as chairman and the daughter as CEO. The moment the appointments became effective, my wife's assistant, Ethan Miller, stepped out from the crowd. He took my wife's hand and roared with laughter, "Sincere Thompson. Thank you for taking such good care of my dear Victoria, and now for handing the company to my children since you're such a good man. Do me one last favor and sign this divorce agreement. Give Victoria back to me so our family can finally be whole, all right?" I smiled and nodded. All right. A wave of shock rippled through the dignitaries and socialites at the party. A multi-hundred-billion-dollar company handed over to a pair of bastards to manage? I guess Mr. Thompson feels he's too old to have kids of his own, so he's decided to treat these bastards as his own. Mr. Thompson never should have agreed to a dink lifestyle with Mrs. Adler in the first place. Now he's losing his entire fortune. Relax. He's just letting them manage it. The assets are still in Mr. Thompson's hands. I looked at the divorce agreement Ethan handed me. Out of a $500 billion fortune, she was leaving me with only $50,000. In that instant, my heart ached as if 1,000 arrows had pierced it. 35 years of marriage, after all. Victoria, are you sure you want a divorce? I asked, looking at my wife, Victoria Adler. For 35 years, I had cherished her. Combined with her meticulous self-care, the winds of time had left only the faintest traces on her face. At over 50, she still possessed the captivating charm of a woman in her 30s or 40s. Sincere, now that I have children, I have to think about their future. You love me so much, I'm sure you understand. Don't worry, my children are your children. They will respect you as their own father and ensure you have a carefree old age. You won't have to worry about a thing. Just sign the papers now, and let my family of 4 be reunited, please." Victoria's voice was gentle, but her words were the cruelest I had ever heard. I gave a bitter laugh. "But you were the one who wanted a child-free life with me, who said it would be just the two of us forever for you. I went against my parents' wishes and got a vasectomy, agreeing to our dink lifestyle. And if you wanted children, you could have come to me. I'm your legal husband. Why did you have to go to your young assistant?" I questioned, my voice filled with bitterness. At the mention of his name, Ethan Miller's expression flickered. Victoria patted the back of his hand reassuringly before turning back to me with a smile. "Regardless, the fact is I have children now, and let me tell you, Sincere, only after having them did I realize how foolish my decision to be child-free was. My heart belongs to them now. Forgive me, Sincere. I made a mistake that any woman in my position would make. I'm a mother, and every mother is selfish. I just want what's best for my children. I've owed them so much for over 20 years. Now I'm begging you, divorce me. Let me return to my family. Let the 4 of us be together, please." My mind drifted back to our university days. That evening, I had taken a fall playing basketball with my classmates and was resting on the sidelines. My head was getting dizzier until someone beside me cried out, "Hey, you're bleeding a lot." The speaker was Victoria Adler. I saw her lively eyes, fixed nervously on my calf. Only then did I notice the blood steadily seeping from the wound. "Let me help you to the campus infirmary," she said. Without a second thought for my sweat-soaked clothes, she helped me up and supported me as we walked. The gentle fragrance from her and her kind, gentle nature sent my heart racing. From that day on, we became good friends. Later, I turned down all other suitors to be with her. Shortly after graduation, I proposed. But she told me she wanted a dink lifestyle. I was stunned and disagreed at first, but she pleaded, saying she was afraid of the pain, terrified of pulling a bloody baby from her body. My heart softened, and I agreed to be child-free and, at her request, had a vasectomy. My parents and I fought about it countless times, but in the end, they had to give in. After we married, I gave her a significant amount of capital for various projects. But Victoria didn't have a head for business, and all the money was lost. Eventually, she became a director in name only at my company, drawing a salary for simple administrative tasks. For over 30 years, I doted on her. No matter how busy I was with work, I always made time for her. She was a bit of a germaphobe and didn't want the maids washing her underwear and socks, so for 35 years, I washed them by hand. I never imagined that just 8 years into our marriage, she would start an affair with Ethan Miller, her assistant, who was 10 years her junior. Now, in the present moment, she was pleading softly to get me to divorce her, just as she had pleaded with me to live a child-free life. Both times, it was for her own benefit. 35 years ago, it was because she feared pain. 35 years later, it was for her new family and children. Seeing my silence, Ethan grew nervous. "Mr. T," he said, "I truly love Victoria. Even after you divorce, I'll let you live with her, and I'll have the kids treat you like their own father. We've owed them 22 years. Can you please give them a complete family?" "Please, Uncle," begged the son, Caden Miller. "Uncle will be really good to you," the daughter, Megan Miller, cooed, wrapping her arm around mine. "If I signed this agreement, I would get $50,000. Victoria would get $500 billion. Anyone could see this wasn't a divorce, it was a hostile takeover of my assets." I gently removed Megan's hand, picked up the pen, and looked at the divorce agreement. My father, seeing this, panicked. Always stern with me, his voice now softened into a plea. "Sincere, you can let them manage the company. If they run it into the ground, you can still pull your capital out. But if you sign this agreement, all the assets will belong to that adulteress. You'll be left with a measly $50,000. You're 55 years old. How will you survive on $50,000 in your old age?" A pang of guilt shot through me. At my age, I was still making my parents worry. Victoria, seeing the hesitation, grew anxious. She quickly turned to her children. "From now on, he is your godfather. He is your parent, understand?" "Understood." The twins came over. Megan stood behind me, gently massaging my shoulders, while Caden quickly peeled a lobster and placed the meat in my bowl. My wife, Victoria, smiled. "See, they're so filial to you. I can promise you," she continued, "I'll spend Mondays, Wednesdays, and Fridays with Ethan and the kids, and Tuesdays, Thursdays, and Saturdays with you. On Sundays, I'll go wherever I feel like. Sincere, don't you trust me?" She skillfully sidestepped the part of the divorce agreement that gave her the $500 billion fortune. Fearing my father would worry himself sick, I asked my mother to take him home. "Son, please don't do something so foolish," my mother pleaded, wiping her tears. "This isn't just about you. It's about the entire Thompson family. You can't let your father and me spend our final years in misery." She repeated her warnings before finally helping my father away. I looked at Victoria. "You really want to divorce me?" Victoria came over and wrapped her arms around me, pouting playfully. "Just indulge me this one last time." I nodded and signed the agreement. Victoria snatched it up and Ethan and the children crowded around to look. Victoria, where rich Ethan's whole body trembled with excitement, his face a mask of pure joy as he pulled her into a tight embrace. "Yes, darling, $500 billion, all ours," Victoria laughed, radiant with delight, leaning affectionately into his arms. "Mom, you're amazing. I can buy so many designer bags." Megan hugged Victoria and kissed her several times, crying tears of joy. Caden pumped his fists in the air. I'm not the poor kid my classmates look down on anymore. I'm the heir to a fortune. No one will ever look down on me again." The four of them were a picture of familial bliss while I sat there utterly alone. "Congratulations, Mrs. Adler, on acquiring a 500 billion fortune." "Congratulations. Congratulations, Mr. Miller." People swarmed around them, offering their congratulations, leaving me isolated on the side. Soon a waiter wheeled out a cake over a meter tall. It had been designed a half-month in advance by the head chef of the city's top 5-star hotel, custom-made for my birthday. The music started, and the lights dimmed. Many began to sing along. "Happy birthday to you." "What is this?" Ethan shouted. The waiter froze for a moment, then explained, "It's time for Mr. Sincere Thompson's birthday wish and toast." Ethan waved his hand impatiently. No need for that. The venue fell silent. I thought Victoria might let the celebration continue, but she also waved a dismissive hand. "Cancel it. Take the cake and feed it to the pigs." I couldn't believe it. She had dropped the act so quickly. "Victoria, you won't even let me have my own birthday party?" I asked, frowning. Victoria replied coolly, "Mr. Thompson, I am now a tycoon's wife with hundreds of billions in assets. You are just a penniless old man. Everyone here is worth at least a few $100 million. Do you think you're worthy of having all these dignitaries celebrate the birthday of a broke loser?" "Exactly would seriously lower our status," many people chimed in, fawning over her. When they looked at me, their eyes were filled with thick contempt. "Sincere, why did you have to be so stubborn?" Just then my parents returned. "We begged you, we warned you not to sign, but you insisted on signing that divorce agreement," my father lamented, his heart aching. "Now you're the biggest joke in the country. Your entire fortune devoured by a woman. Are you satisfied? Look at you. You were once a billionaire worth hundreds of billions. No one dared to challenge your authority. Now look at these people. Most of them depended on your goodwill to survive. In your eyes, they were ants you could crush with a single word. But now even these ants don't give you a second glance. Tell me, what was the point of being with a vixen like that, only to be cleaned out and thrown away?" Victoria glared at them. "Old fool, who are you calling a vixen? Say that again, and see what happens." My parents and she had always been at odds, arguing many times over the years. "Adulteress, I'll kill you," my frail, elderly father suddenly lunged forward and slapped Victoria across the face. "You—" Victoria was stunned. She never expected this old man, who looked like he had one foot in the grave, to have such strength. Her cheeks swelled up almost instantly. "Someone beat this old fool to death," Victoria ordered coldly. Several security guards rushed forward. My father threw his head back and laughed. Fine, I don't have much time left anyway. Come on, beat me to death right here." His defiant spirit was surprisingly moving. The guards, intimidated by his aura, hesitated. "Beat him," Victoria screamed. The guards gritted their teeth and charged. Oof! One of the guards kicked my father, sending him sprawling to the ground. As they moved to strike again, I grabbed a chair, swung it to fend them off, and stood protectively in front of my father. "Victoria, don't go too far, let them leave." Before Victoria could speak, Ethan stepped forward. "You want them to leave? Fine, get on your knees and beg me." I stared daggers at Victoria. "You want me to kneel too?" Victoria looked slightly unnerved. "What Ethan says goes for me too." Ethan laughed triumphantly. "Well, Mr. Thompson, are you going to kneel or not? If you don't, I'll have my men cripple your parents." Seeing the look of a petty man who'd finally gotten his moment, my mind flashed back to the past. I had hired this man. He came from the countryside, had a vocational college degree, and was unemployed right after graduation. He'd sent out countless resumes with no success. One day, he came to a shopping center I owned to apply for a sales clerk position, but the manager wasn't interested. I happened to be passing by. He recognized me from my frequent television appearances and instantly fell to his knees before me, sobbing and snot-nosed. He told me his family was over $200,000 in debt. He was penniless, hadn't eaten in 2 days, and was at the end of his rope. He begged me to give him a chance, to hire him. He said he would starve to death if I didn't help him. Feeling sorry for him, I told the manager to hire him. Later, when Victoria was looking for an assistant, he sent an email and, to my surprise, was hired. "Ethan," I said, my voice low, "if I hadn't taken you in all those years ago, you probably would have starved to death on the street." Ethan froze for a second, then burst out laughing. "It's true, without you I would have starved. But now I have to thank you. I slept with your wife and took your entire family's fortune. If you know what's good for you, get on your knees and beg me right now. I might let them go. I'll even hire you as a janitor, specifically to clean the men's restrooms." Once I was high above him, and he could only grovel at my feet. Now he wanted to reclaim his past humiliation. The room erupted in laughter. Does he still think he's the boss of a multi-hundred-billion-dollar company? Mr. Thompson cleaning toilets sounds about right. I'll do him a favor and piss all over the floor when I go. "Hey, old man, get on your knees," Caden yelled, pointing at me. "Yeah, or we'll beat you to death," Megan sneered. Just moments ago, they were promising to be good to me, to serve me as their own father. In the blink of an eye, they wanted me dead. Several guards closed in, holding electric batons. Victoria said, "Sincere, if you don't kneel, you'll be beaten. It's what you get for being all alone, with no children to your name. Who says I have no children?" I put down the chair and shouted towards the entrance, "What are you all waiting for? Get in here outside." A fleet of luxury cars was parked. In a moment, more than 30 teenagers, boys and girls, led by their mothers, walked in, smiling as they approached me. "Dad." "Honey, we're here what? Why are all these kids calling him Dad? And why are those women so close to him?" Instantly, everyone stared at me, their eyes wide with confusion. I went to greet them. "Honey, darling." There were about 20 beautiful women in the room. The oldest was in her 40s, the youngest just a college freshman. These were my girlfriends, 23 of them. Some were cool and aloof, others cute and playful, some bubbly and energetic. They were all stunning, with beautiful figures. I put my arm around one, then another, my face beaming. "Dad, I haven't seen you in so long. Why haven't you come to play?" "Dad, I got into a top-tier high school. It has a 50% admission rate to Ivy League universities." "Dad, my girlfriend said she wants to meet you next month." 35 children, boys and girls, crowded around me, chattering away. The oldest were about the same age as Caden and Megan. A few of the youngest were only a few months old, cradled in their mother's arms, their chubby little faces looking up at me. All right. "From now on, Dad will be with you all," I said with a smile, hugging them one by one. The entire room was stunned into silence by the scene. Even my parents were in shock. "Sincere, these people are?" my mother asked, looking at me with bewilderment. "Dad, Mom, let me introduce you. These are all my girlfriends and my children," I said, smiling, as I led a few of the younger women over to my parents. My parents looked as if they'd seen a ghost, their mouths hanging wide open. After a long moment, they both burst into tears of joy. Good. The two of them looked from one woman to another, nodding incessantly. My girlfriends, in turn, introduced themselves and their children. My parents' faces were wreathed in smiles, and they kept repeating the women's names, trying to commit them to memory. But with so many, how could they possibly remember? Still, their wrinkled faces were blooming with a happiness I had never seen before. They had never been this happy in their entire lives. "Son, let me ask you something," my father said, pulling me aside after a while with a grin. "These girls and your kids, they're not hired actors, are they? Even if they are, I'll take it. Your mother and I have never been this happy." Hearing his words, I felt a deep sense of guilt for my past failures as a son. "Don't worry, Dad. They're not actors. They are my girlfriends, and these are my children." My father's smile grew even wider, but it quickly faded, and he looked at me, hesitating. "Are you sure they're all your biological children? Once bitten, twice shy. After what happened with Victoria, and given that I had supposedly had a vasectomy, it was only natural for my father to worry I was being deceived again." I smiled. "Don't worry, they are all completely loyal to me. I've had paternity tests done for every single one of these children at the state's general hospital. They are all mine. Wonderful, that's just wonderful, my father repeated, overcome with emotion. My mother worriedly said, "Honey, don't get too worked up." My father nodded repeatedly. Yes, I'm just so happy. I need to control myself. But this feeling, it's like a beggar suddenly winning the lottery jackpot. The analogy was a bit clumsy, but we all understood what he meant. Sincere Thompson Victoria's face was dark as she shouted, "You scumbag, you said you would love me forever, and now you've found all these vixens to have a whole brood of children for you." I took a few steps forward. "Before you call me a scumbag, maybe you should take a look at yourself. You were the one who became an adulteress first. And for the record, the oldest of my children is only 21. Your children are a year younger than that proves you were the one who cheated first." Victoria raged, "I don't care, you're a scumbag and they're all sluts." Ethan put his arm around Victoria. "Honey, don't waste your breath on him. He's a broke loser now. How is he going to support all these women? You can't say he's completely broke. After all, he still has $50,000. That should be enough for some baby formula and diapers, though I'm not sure if it'll be enough to go around," Victoria said contemptuously. "That's right, you're broke now. I bet these women will leave you one by one. They're all so beautiful, Mr. Thompson. If you can't afford to keep them, how about I help you take care of a few?" Someone from the crowd shouted, followed by raucous laughter. I didn't get angry. I just smiled and said, "Who says I have no money? Who says I'm only left with $50,000? Everyone looked at me, puzzled. "What are you trying to pull? You gave your $500 billion to Mrs. Adler. Where would you get any money?" Someone else whistled at my girlfriends. "Hey ladies, don't let him fool you, he's got no money. If you want to make some real cash, come find me tonight." 10,000 a night, the men howled with laughter. Watching them, my expression turned cold. Soon, they would learn the meaning of cruelty, because this was all part of my plan. It was time to close the net. In my past life, I was so blinded by love that Victoria had me wrapped around her finger. I got a vasectomy for her. Even after discovering her affair with her young assistant, I forgave her and signed the divorce agreement, handing over my $500 billion fortune. But the moment the money was in her hands, she turned on me, throwing me and my parents out onto the street. My family became a national laughingstock. Everyone called me a sucker, the cuckold of the century. Online meme lords turned my story into novels, short stories, and ridiculous comics. At 55, I gave up on life, spending my days in a drunken stupor. This was hardest on my parents. In their 80s, they were forced to scavenge through trash cans to make a living and support me. I didn't last long. I died in bitterness and anger under a bridge. When I opened my eyes again, I was back on the day Victoria took me to get the vasectomy. Realizing I had been reborn, I was overcome with shock and joy. Victoria sent me into the operating room and waited outside. The moment I walked in, I introduced myself to the doctor, telling her I was the billionaire Sincere Thompson and that I needed her to fake the vasectomy and keep it a secret. I offered her money, but the female doctor, Dr. Evelyn Reed, waved it away. After all, even back then, my net worth was in the hundreds of billions. She cooperated, providing a fake completion report for me to show Victoria. That doctor had just started her career and was a few years younger than me. I later pursued her in secret, and she became my first girlfriend, giving birth to 2 of my daughters. Now, I looked at Victoria and said, "I do have money." Victoria panicked slightly. She brandished the divorce agreement. "The agreement is perfectly clear. Your assets, including cars, houses, stocks, and bank deposits, are all mine. All I'm giving you is $50,000. It's written in black and white with your name and your thumbprint." I nodded. "Yes, all of that is yours." She was confused. "If the $500 billion is mine, how do you still have money?" I smiled. "Oh, I have money. About 20 minutes ago, 35 separate debts that I incurred were called in, and claims were filed against the company. These 35 debts were secured against all those assets, my company's houses, cars, and stocks. As soon as the words left my mouth, several female executives in black business suits burst in, their faces pale. "Mrs. Adler, this is terrible. The company is facing massive debt claims. All of our liquid capital has been automatically transferred from our bank accounts to other parties because the liquid funds weren't enough. To cover the debts, the top legal teams from the nation's 4 most prestigious law firms have sent U.S. official notices demanding immediate repayment." "Ah," Victoria screamed, her voice filled with disbelief. "What happened? The company's cash has been seized?" The executive explained, "I called the bank. They checked and told us they were just following protocol based on pre-existing agreements. As of now, the company's accounts are empty. Those top-tier legal teams are still demanding payment. The company headquarters, our products, factories, and all our precision equipment have been frozen pending auction." Just then, Victoria's phone rang. With a trembling hand, she answered. "Hello? Mom, what's wrong?" "Victoria, we're being thrown out of the villa. They said it's not ours anymore. Didn't you say you had all of Sincere's assets? Why are they kicking us out?" Thud. Victoria's phone slipped from her hand and crashed to the floor, the screen shattering. Hearing this, Ethan and the 2 children's faces went white. Ethan frantically checked the company's financial status online, then collapsed into a chair. How could this happen? A $500 billion fortune, just gone. No way. The guests stared at them in shock. "Wow, what's going on? The money we just got is gone? I didn't even have time to buy a single Louis Vuitton bag or some high-end skincare," Megan wailed after confirming the company was broke. Caden was slightly more composed. "Dad, Mom, what he did must be illegal. He's illegally transferring assets. We have to sue him." A spark of hope lit up in Victoria and Ethan's eyes. "That's right, we can do that." Victoria glared at me, her teeth gritted. "Thompson, you secretly transferred assets. We'll see you in court." "I'm taking everything back." I just shook my head with a smile. "Victoria, Ethan, after all these years, you 2 still haven't learned a thing. There's nothing wrong with these debts. They're all legitimate interest from loans, payments to suppliers, land sales, fees for consulting services the company procured. There are receipts and security footage for everything." I chuckled. I had orchestrated this flawlessly, waiting for this exact moment. "And let's take a step back. Even if you could find a problem, what are you going to sue me with? I'm working with the nation's top 4 law firms. After all these years, even if you don't know the weight their names carry, you should have at least consulted someone." I rolled my eyes. "And you 2 college graduates are idiots too. You don't even know that?" Victoria froze and asked one of the executives beside her. "What are the top 4 law firms?" The executive replied, "They are the most elite law firms in the country. Going against any one of them is a losing battle. Now that Mr. Thompson has hired the top lawyers from all 4, it's safe to say we can't win this lawsuit in this country. Besides," she added, "the company has no liquid assets and everything is frozen pending auction. We'd need money to sue them, and a case like this would drag on for years. Who can afford that?" Victoria slumped into her chair. "No, this can't be happening," she sobbed. "Sincere, you can't be so cruel. You promised to hand the company over to my children. We even signed an agreement." I smiled. "Yes, we did sign an agreement. You got me to sign it during a game of truth or dare when I was drunk. You have 2 children to consider, and I have 35. As a father, I have to think about my children's future too. Looking at that agreement, didn't we both honor it?" "But you tricked me. You used despicable means," she cried. I shook my head. "Me? Despicable? If I were despicable, I wouldn't have handed over the company for your 2 children to manage, nor would I have agreed to your terms and divorced you, giving you a multi-hundred-billion-dollar fortune. But in the end, the assets are still yours. You're the despicable one. I got nothing, and I'm divorced from you." Regret flashed in Victoria's eyes. I shrugged. "Let's take another step back. Even if I was despicable, it was all to ensure you fulfilled your part of the agreement. We said we'd hand over the assets for our children to manage." I held up the divorce decree with a smile. "And thank you for this. If you hadn't agreed to divorce me, you would have walked away with at least tens of billions of my fortune. Forget tens of billions. I wouldn't have let her take $100. In my last life, she bled me dry, leaving me to die in a forgotten city underpass. My parents and relatives were dragged down with me. In their old age, they had to pick through trash to survive, suffering humiliation they had never known, eventually freezing to death on the streets. So, the moment I was reborn, I began meticulously planning this revenge. Honey, actually, I still love you. Can we start over? Victoria looked at me pitifully. Impossible. I shook my head. These days I date, but I don't marry. Look around. I have so many girlfriends, and they treat me wonderfully. To avoid legal trouble, I added, I've broken up with most of them, but they're so devoted to me they insist on staying. I put my arm around a young college student. See? Isn't she younger and more beautiful than you? You. How can it be you? Victoria stared at her in shock. Hello, Auntie. It's me, Jasmine Adler, the young woman, Jasmine said with a smile. Then leaned in and gave me an affectionate kiss on the cheek. My mother has also approved of my relationship with Uncle Sincere. I just had a son for him. He's so cute. Jasmine Adler was Victoria's sister's daughter, her own niece. Victoria shrieked, No, you two can't be together. Uncle Sincere is so good to me. He loves me, pampers me, and even paid for my mother's medical treatment. He's far more compassionate than you ever were. I begged you for help so many times, and you wouldn't give a single penny. Uncle Sincere might be a bit older, but he's a brilliant man. Meeting him made me believe in love again. Wah, you'll both pay for this, Victoria wailed. Suddenly she screamed again. Isabel Croft, what are you doing here? Don't tell me you're also... Isabel Croft, once her closest friend, heard her and gracefully walked over with her 3 children. Victoria, long time no see, she said with a smile. You don't mind that I had 3 children with your husband, do you? You vixen, you stole my husband, I'll kill you. Victoria lunged, trying to attack her, but was stopped by several bodyguards. Isabel sneered. What right do you have to say that to me? You were the one who cheated first and tried to swallow Sincere's entire fortune. I was just helping him get his revenge. As she spoke, she clasped my hand, her face wet with tears of happiness. In my past life, after I died, Isabel had rushed to my side, collapsing on my body and sobbing inconsolably. Only then did I learn that she had always held a place for me in her heart. Back in college, she never had the chance to confess her feelings before her best friend Victoria stole my heart. After that, she never found a partner and grew old alone. After my rebirth, she was the first person I sought out. Next, from among my group of girlfriends, Victoria recognized several other familiar faces. A former classmate, people from her village, her own former assistant, and even the doctor who had performed my vasectomy, all people she had once looked down upon. Isabel, for example, was someone she always belittled at class reunions, calling her a village girl, a loser destined to struggle at the bottom her whole life. But now all these women were my partners, had borne my children, and were living wonderful lives. Sincere, you scumbag. Instantly, the overwhelming feeling of being stabbed in the back by everyone she knew washed over her. You found a male assistant, so I found your best friend, your relatives, your old neighbors, your classmates, and your niece. Tit for tat. I laughed heartily, savoring the sweetness of my revenge. Just then, one of the executives took a phone call. Her face turned grim. She looked at Victoria and stammered. Mrs. Adler, the bank and several suppliers. They might be suing you and your 2 children. Victoria snapped. What are you talking about? Why would they sue us? The executive explained, although our company was performing well, we still had a certain debt-to-asset ratio and many outstanding payments due to suppliers. Now that the company is on the verge of bankruptcy, they're not getting their money, so naturally they're coming after you. Furthermore, I'm afraid all the company's employees, if they don't receive their salaries, will be coming after you as well. As she said this, her own expression turned cold. After all, she was one of those employees. Isabel Croft burst out laughing. Victoria, I bet you never saw this coming. Now you're not just broke, you're buried in lawsuits. As the best friend you once looked down on, I'm now a woman worth tens of billions. No, how could you have tens of billions? Victoria stared at her intently. Because among those 35 debts, 3 were assets Sincere gave to my 3 children. Your company owes me over 10 billion. Arr. Victoria, overcome with rage, coughed up a mouthful of blood. After a long moment, she stumbled over to me again, wrapping her arms around me. Honey, please don't leave me, okay? I don't want to be child-free anymore. I want to have children with you. We can have as many as you want. And I don't want your money. I just want to be with you, live in your villa and drive your luxury cars. Get lost. I kicked her away. Honey, I was wrong, please. Forgive me. Victoria crawled back on her knees, hugging my legs and kowtowing repeatedly. It was all that animal. Ethan's idea. He raped me. That's how I ended up with those 2 children. Honey, I was wrong. I never wanted those 2 bastards. Victoria, what are you saying? Ethan was horrified. If she accused him of rape, he would be in serious trouble. Mom, you don't want us anymore? Caden and Megan panicked. I have nothing to do with you. I only gave birth to you 2 bastards because I was raped by Ethan Miller. I was weak then, and Ethan begged me, so I didn't call the police. Victoria stood up and called for the guards. Beat these 3 to a pulp, Mom, you. Don't hit us, Megan cried. The guards exchanged glances, then rushed forward, pinning the 3 of them down and beating them mercilessly as they screamed for mercy. Soon, the police arrived and arrested Ethan. Victoria and her children were also taken away for questioning. With the chaos over, the guests who had remained now approached me one by one, their faces plastered with fawning smiles. Mr. Thompson, what a brilliant move. We are all truly impressed. That's how you deal with an adulterous pair like them. I looked at them coldly. From today on, I am forming a new company. I will also be replacing all my partners and suppliers. I will not be working with any of you again. Mr. Thompson, no, please, I was wrong, Mr. Thompson. I was out of line earlier. Please give me another chance. I didn't look back. With my arm around my parents, surrounded by my girlfriends and children, we walked out under the protection of my bodyguards. We returned to my grand villa, where we finally celebrated my birthday properly. 1 week later, I established my new company. Of course, it was registered in my parents' names. They held all the shares, and they appointed me as chairman and CEO, with full authority to manage it. 1 month later, the old company went bankrupt. Victoria was drowning in lawsuits. Ethan was sent to prison by Victoria's testimony, sentenced to 3 years. Buried under legal battles, Victoria was forced to work several odd jobs a day to pay her debts, but she was still frequently hounded and beaten by creditors. 1 year later, I heard that Ethan, tormented by the constant verbal abuse from Victoria and his children calling him a failure, developed severe depression and committed suicide in prison. One day, a client invited me to a KTV lounge and had a group of hostesses brought in. I waved them away, explaining that with so many girlfriends at home, I had more than I could handle. Mr. Thompson, just pick one, the client said obsequiously, pointing to a girl. You come here and take good care of Mr. Thompson. The girl hesitated for a moment before walking over and sitting on my lap. Uncle Sincere, it's me, Megan Miller. Please let me serve you. Otherwise, I won't have money to give my mom and will be beaten to death. I looked at the beautiful girl in my arms. It was indeed Megan Miller. When she first started working, she had an air of innocence. Now she was covered in heavy makeup, reeking of cheap perfume, reduced to a KTV room princess. What about Caden? He's out pimping. I waved my hand. You can go. Megan grew desperate. Uncle, we were wrong. My mom was wrong too. Please don't send me away. She became very forward, grinding against my lap and forcing my hand onto her body. I had to admit, she had a very full figure, radiating a boundless youthful energy. Seeing my reaction, her actions grew bolder. I never would have imagined that I would one day be in such intimate contact with my ex-wife's daughter. The others in the room smiled knowingly, quietly exited, and closed the door. Megan quickly stripped off her clothes, revealing her voluptuous body. "Megan, did you get the money?" Just then, the door was pushed open. The person who walked in was Victoria, whom I hadn't seen in a long time. She had none of her former tycoon wife's aura. Her face was covered in wrinkles, her clothes were old and worn, and her hair was graying. She looked like a woman in her late 70s. "Oh, so you have a client," she began. Then her eyes focused on me. She let out a piercing scream. "This is a sin." "Wah!" Victoria spat out a large mouthful of blood. She could never have imagined that her daughter, Megan, would end up submitting herself to me. This was the ultimate revenge against that adulteress. I pushed Megan away and tossed a stack of bills worth over $10,000 onto the table. "Go take care of her." I walked out. In truth, Megan and I hadn't gone all the way, but the image of her, naked and sitting on my lap, was something Victoria could never unsee. Later, I heard that Victoria, unable to bear the suffering any longer, jumped from a building to her death. After that incident, I declined all similar invitations and never set foot in such establishments again. After all, I had plenty of girlfriends at home. With them, I had several more children. Our large, bustling family was exactly the happy life I had always wanted.